You don't know he's there. That's how good he is.
He set the benchmark.
Snap your fingers and George would be able to do it on demand.
Immediately you knew he was the real thing.
The respect isn't just on the stage, it's the respect he gives the players as well.
He doesn't make mistakes.
And so it's pretty much perfection in every way.
His best feature is his tunnel vision. That's why I actually fell for him as well. When he talks to you, he talks to you, if you know what I mean. As if no one else is there. Doesn't matter. Doesn't care. He's, yeah, it's probably his best feature. He's very thoughtful. These are the nice things. Well, I suppose I could do both really. He's, yeah, very thoughtful, but has forgot my birthday one time.
He's very emotional. So on one side, when he's really happy, that's great. But when he is angry or he is upset, everybody knows.
Do anything for anyone. He's very generous. And I suppose after 20 odd years, he's obviously the one for me, so I must like him.
He is emotional and you can tell that he's happy, and when he's enjoying something, you know, he loves his time with his grandchildren. So when he's around them and, you know, he's relaxed.
Quite short-tempered, can be, yeah, moany. You know, he's like, he needs to take a chill pill.
However, he wouldn't tell you, oh, I'm really happy, or I love being around you guys, or I love you guys. He's not like that at all. You kind of just have to, if he's relaxed, he's happy.
And he always wants the best and likes to give the best. I mean, he's not, I mean, there's lots of time, i.e. we're buying things. And I was saying, well, no, I don't need that. Oh yeah, but it's nice, have it. Just have it. I said, no, I don't want it. And he's very much like, I mean, he knows about Matilda as well. Oh my God, what does she need another handbag for? But he does like buying her nice things.
Hi, Dad. What do you want? How much? I ring him and he usually answers the phone with, how much?
If I can have you clap in front of your face, please, John, to the camera.
I met George Noble at a Premier League event when the very first day he joined us. I believe it was his first ever event. And it was a coincidence, really, that we knew a lot of the same people. So we had quite a lot in common immediately the first day I met him.
I first met George, a lot of you won't even know this, I was 11 years of age. I was playing in London youth team back then, the London youth team, and George was one of the best players that they had. He was about like 16, 17, and believe it or not, can't believe I'm admitting to this, I wanted to be like George.
From the day I met him, he has always been the same guy. George isn't always the easiest person to meet for newbies because you have to win him over. But because I started the same way as he did in my darts career, working with Bobby George, I think he trusted me. We liked each other from the off.
I very first met George when he was about 9 years of age in his dad's pub. And yeah, he was a lively little character then in the day.
Highly respected on the hockey, but off the hockey he's one of the guys. It's not necessarily the case with everybody on tour. Some people like to keep to themselves. George is very much a social cat for me. He wants to be around people that he really respects and likes to spend time with.
I think when you think George Noble, the name itself, George is a big name, it's a strong name. And then he walks in and he's about 5'4".
How would you describe George as a man?
Good question. I work closely with him, so this isn't fair. I would say stubborn, but I think that's as much a strength as it is a weakness. I think very tenacious.
How would you describe George as a person?
It's been fun while it lasted. I would describe him as somebody who likes the finer things in life. You know, he's not afraid to spend a few quid.
Well, I get on really well with him. I've been out on a few times, meals, etc. with him. Spent a lot of time in his company and all that. And I think I can always call him a friend. And I got on really well with him.
Look, anyone that says a bad word about him, I'll jump in and say you're wrong. There's not a bad word you can say about Georgie. He's been the utmost professional in his field. I don't think that will ever change. I don't think anyone will ever beat it, to be fair.
The kind of person that he is, a lot of players we always get on with him. You understand that now him leaving, there's going to be a void there, because he was one of the referees you actually get along with. Not that everybody else you don't get along with, but he's the ones that like to have fun and all of those things.
He's getting to see his friends, mixing with people that he likes and knows very well. A few beers, who wouldn't like that life?
The socialising side, I'm quite good at socialising. I think everybody knows that. So.
We did that, so I was just going to mention, the Great Wall of China with George. Been Australia, been to America, sort of pretty much all the continents, and he's a good fun guy to be around, that's for sure. When he does actually crack a smile.
He's a very, very, very social person, so you could always rely on George if you wanted to go out for a few light libations. Although I don't do that anymore, he finished me off.
You speak to many people about trips to Austria for the European tour, or maybe going to majors. You're going to have dinner. George is always wanting to be there, and he's not necessarily the life and soul of the party, but if you're sitting next to him, it's going to be a good night, because there'll be both comedy, deep conversation, and intelligent conversation as well, all mashed into one.
My first impressions of George, that was an interesting one, because George came across as being quite shy at first, but confidence was incredible. His knowledge of the game was exceptional. He'd been involved in darts for so long, and he literally knew everybody. Immediately you knew he was the real thing.
A lot of us will only know George to scream out scores. Everybody doesn't know that he's not that loud off stage, he's quite quiet.
Some referees kind of like the fame of it, they like being involved, they like being on camera. George is very much the opposite. He's... I don't know what you're trying to indicate there.
I was just looking
George is very much the other way. He will be walking around Minehead and I've seen him with his hood up, do you know what I mean? Like, not because he's a gangster, but because he doesn't want to be recognised, do you know what I mean? Cool, George Noble is a gangster, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's quite funny because people, I'm being perfectly honest, I've never done it because I wanted to be famous. I never done it because I wanted to be on telly. I've done it because I weren't bad at it, and you could earn money out of it, and I actually enjoyed it. So I never done it to become known in, it's not. I think people that know me will tell you that.
So we were in the supermarket and we were paying for our shopping. Nothing untoward had happened.
And the lady behind the till goes, "Oh, this is so and so. It's I don't know, 33 quid or something."
And he gave his card to the cashier to pay, and she must be studying his card for a good 3 minutes.
And she's looking at me. She's looking at the card. She's looking at me. She's looking at the card. She's looking at me. She's looking at the card. I'm thinking, she thinks I ain't got any money, or she thinks I've stolen the card or something. I mean, what's wrong? What have I done wrong? I'm feeling like guilty that I've done something. She went, "I knew it was you. I knew it was you. George Noble, the darts ref."
And my dad said, "What?" Like thinking, I don't know this person. She goes, "Yeah, George, off the telly, the referee." That was it then. He was like, "Yep, that's me, got it shopping." That was him. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like being famous. Of course, he loves what he has done for the sport, don't get me wrong, and he must be grateful that people recognise him, because that means you're doing a good job, but he doesn't want it to be famous.
Absolutely hilarious. It's the funniest thing ever, and I do encourage him.
My wife finds it highly hilarious because she knows that I'm awkward. I'll sign it, yeah, but I find it a bit. I wouldn't show it, but I find it a bit awkward.
We was actually going for one of his hospital appointments, and we was on the tube.
A fella stopped me on Victoria Station. He was looking at my wife on. He kept looking at me.
I think, God, it's a bit of a weirdo. Anyway, looking over us and everything, and then we got up to get off.
I think there's something wrong with this bloke. I think we got to get off at the station, and we was coming out of the train following us. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen here?
And he was right behind me, this chap, like I could feel him on the back of my neck, literally.
So he got off the train and he said something to my wife, and so he said, is that George Noble, the darts referee? I didn't hear it.
I said, yeah, yes, it is, George Noble. So he said, do you think I'll have a photo? Yeah, George.
And she could have said no, but she finds it highly amusing, so she said yes.
A packed tube station. George, come here, look, this chap wants a photo with you. And George is looking at me, and you could see, and I knew, and he's like, oh yeah, okay.
I'm standing on the station having a photo done with this bloke rush out, everyone's looking, who is he? But
oh, it's hilarious. In fact, I was laughing so much I could hardly take the picture.
Yeah, I do find it awkward. No, I don't. The answer to your question, I've gone around the bush, is that I don't see myself like that. If other people do, then great, but it's not something that I've aspired to do or ever courted or ever wanted. Okay, so I played darts from about 5 years old. My dad used to play. Then, I played in junior events. Started playing junior events when I was 11, 12. Wasn't that bad a player by the time I got to 15, 16. Played county darts for Kent and London. Won a few junior competitions. I was a decent player.
Well, I'd say George was a very, very good young dart player, and he was at a different county to me. George was sort of London and Kent, and I ended up in Hertfordshire when I was actually playing darts. So our paths only ever crossed when he started becoming a referee at the Lakeside.
But there was never the rewards in the game. I think back then, only the top, handful of players we could class ourselves as full-time professional players. Although, some people did say as professionals, they really, in the actual wording of it, they may have been, but they actually wasn't financially. So I wouldn't say the interest wasn't there, it probably just wasn't good enough, So I was at a tournament one day and the ref didn't turn up. And so I had to go out refereeing and I was okay-ish. And then a guy called Roger Nixon back in the day, who used to run the junior darts, asked me if I'd do a bit of refereeing for the juniors at county, and that's how it sort of started.
The refereeing, because I played in the BDO, so I kind of saw it happen. He was doing world championships and big events way before I qualified for them. But George always had that. He always had that in him. I remember some of the youth games. If things didn't work out with a caller or a marker, he was straight in. Whereas a lot of the other kids were like, no, a bit reserved. Do you know, it would have been, for me, I'd have probably seen him do it when I was about 20, so early 90s. And of course, doing the world since, mid to late 90s. He's always been amazing with numbers, that's why, one of the reasons why I looked up to him as a player when I was a kid. I used to watch him do this stuff around the board and I was still working it out. He's always had that mathematical darting brain, yeah.
So I started doing county refereeing as a very young, in my probably 17, something like that, 17, 18. Fast forward a couple of years, probably 3 years, something like that, 3 or 4 years. Probably I was in my 20s then, early 20s. I was at an exhibition one day in county as well, because a guy called Phil Jones, who was the MC before John McDonald was at the PDC, obviously saw me referee because he was the MC for London as well, and he was Bobby George's MC, so he decided, his business decided that he had to go away for work for 6 weeks, and he's looking for someone to step in and cover for him. So he put my name forward to Bobby, and basically I was supposed to do 6 weeks for Bobby and probably done near 6 years of him. I mean, he was great, Bobby, and there's a lot of refs that have worked for Bobby and gone on to become top names in the game. So Bobby recommended me back then to the BDO, and that was basically how I got my first television break, I guess. 1994 World Masters, I believe. Somewhere around there was probably one of the biggest tournaments I'd done back then. So that's sort of the journey, really. But there's not an application form to be a referee. You know what I mean? You don't go to school and you see your careers off. So what are you going to be? I'm going to be a darts referee, because it just doesn't exist. It's sort of something that you actually fall into or progress into it. But now I think is more of a pathway, because there's a lot more referees needed in all the different organisations and competitions around the world. So.
And of course, then when he came over to the PDC, when I was calling here, it was just hello mate, and a friendship that sort of grew even more as adults, as opposed to him being a kid and me being an adult in the first instance.
That when people started watching darts in the early to mid 90s, it wasn't just about the players, it was about who was on the stage. And not everybody becomes an icon from wearing a dicky bow, a white shirt and a black suit, or in the case of some others, a grey suit. And I suppose when we've had iconic referees like Bruce Spendley and Freddie Williams, and to a certain degree Martin Fitzmaurice, you think there are huge shoes to fill when those guys go elsewhere. You had the split in 93, 94, and you saw Freddie Williams go to the PDC and Bruce Spendley go to the PDC, and they started cultivating the likes of Russ Bray. So who was going to take the reins at the BDOs? You had Stevie Nichols and you had George Noble.
Because I was just sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? But I'd be sat there on my sofa watching the World Championships with my mum, and I'd just be like trying to impersonate George, and I'd just be forget like the players, Phil Taylor and Barney. I wasn't really bothered about them. For some reason, it was George Noble. It does sound odd, doesn't it? But I don't know. It just maybe the way he sounded, he had something. He still has.
It goes without saying, understanding that the sport of darts is not just about the player. It is about the entire experience, and George Noble contributed to major events, major matches as well, and I think without him, players will struggle.
One of our referees, and we was watching it on the TV, something happened and the referee called a foul shot, and George was watching, and George said, no, the referee's absolutely right, that was a foul shot. And I was like, can you tell? And he said, immediately I can tell, but more importantly, I have great confidence in this referee. And I thought, you're sticking up for somebody beyond the call of duty here. You know, what a nice bloke to have in your corner. You know, he immediately said, no, that was a good call. And at the time, it didn't look like it was. And then sort of VAR, if you like, later everybody went, oh yeah, good call.
2007 Dutch Open final. That was the first time I played on TV and the first game that George ever called for me, and I'll never forget it. It sends shivers. It makes my hair stand up on my arms. The guy's a legend. I couldn't wish for a better referee to do that.
In darts refereeing terms, he's kind of the last really remaining legend. Obviously, those who've watched darts for the last few decades it's synonymous with certain voices, certain 180 calls. George Noble stands up there as well. Also see him as someone who's really got authority on the stage, never scared to pull a player. Sometimes he's had his own unique way of addressing a crowd or a certain member of the crowd if they step out of line. So yeah, I think it's just been completely part of the furniture in darts for a long time.
You look at all the areas that make a great referee, and he hasn't really got a weak area. In fact, he's strong on every department. His voice is annoyingly brilliant. His numbers are great. He's got control, like he's got a sense of authority when he's on the stage. He can deal with the crowd. He's not afraid of anyone. He's not afraid to say anything to anyone. He's just got that aura about him. He's just the greatest, in my opinion. I always thought that growing up as a kid, he was the referee I looked up to, and yeah, he's the greatest referee to ever grace the stage.
His patience, the style of calling that he did, and if he thought anything was wrong on the stage, George would be the first to actually turn around and say, I want this stopping, or whatever the case might be. And he came across, the public liked him, and he, like I say, just stood out in the refereeing roles that he actually did.
I was told by a friend of mine when I was playing county darts in the early 2000s that the greatest referees are the ones you don't know are there. And I was told that because I was doing a bit of refereeing myself. So I thought, well, it's not about the referee. It's about the players and making sure that you do your bits. And as soon as the game is over, you can realise who the referee is. But George was always there, but not there at the same time.
So it's difficult to do it full time. I mean, I had a really good job before I decided to jump ship and work for the PDC. I mean, I was asked 3 years previous before I actually worked for him. I went to work for him in 2007, but I was asked in 2004, 2005, 2006. And, you know, at the time I had a good job. Worked for a large brewery company, and I was in a managerial role, I had a good pension, I had everything. And I guess financially it was probably up there with some of the stupidest decisions I've ever made, to leave my job like that and have a final salary, pension and everything. But to be fair, it was my wife that sort of made me do it. I just said to her, look, I've got this opportunity. I don't, you know, they've asked me 3 or 4 times and I don't think they'll ever ask me again.
He's good at what he does, and he can literally do it in his sleep, and he has. And I think, you know, people tend to like George. You know what you're getting with George, I suppose, at the end of the day. You know, does his job, doesn't take any rubbish from people. But at the same token, he's not a big head, or, you know, oh, look at me, George Noble. And
back then, there was nowhere near the money, even back in the 90s, then when Russ started. So, you know, it's like everything. It's like, when you look back on it, it was the best decision I ever made. But when you actually look back on the years of having to have another 1 or 2 or possibly 3 different jobs on the side to become a professional darts referee, because that's what you really want to do. You have to go through things like that, and a lot of people, other refs, started off but couldn't stay the race, couldn't stay the course. I was in Germany for a European Tour event at, I think it was Leverkusen, possibly, I think it was, and I didn't feel very well, and in fact I was a really bad back pain and that, and I thought, I don't feel very good, and I spoke to the guys at the German darts organisation, so I don't feel well, and a really brilliant bloke who I'll never forget, Diddy, took me to hospital, and German hospitals, it was far more helpful than you know, I ain't saying the hospitals are bad, but the waiting times and everything, well, they actually took me straight in, and I had a scan within an hour.
You know, and you think, first thing you think of is your children. Oh my God, what are we going to tell them? And so we waited till we obviously knew all the facts before we did tell them.
I was in a hotel, we were at a darts tournament, and he said, oh, I have to tell you something. And I was like, okay.
And they scanned my back, and they'd got a CD-ROM of the scan. And they said, look, when you go back, go to your hospital, give them the scan because you have something wrong with you. Nothing to worry about, but you have something wrong with it. Okay, so go back, go to the hospital, give the bloke the scan. It took a while I was there in A&E for ages to get someone to look at it. They didn't want to, anyway, finally when they was obviously very busy, and they looked at it and they said, the bloke actually said to me, look, you need to go and see a urologist. So I didn't need to go and see an oncologist. So I was thinking, well, it's not cancer, I don't know what it is. So he basically said, look, it's 6 months waiting list. I'll never forget the comment. He said to me, where have you been? And I told him what I did for a living. He said to me, have you got any money? I said, well, oh, yeah, I've got some money. He said, well, if I was you, I'd go and I'd book an appointment at the private hospital and see Professor Abre Rana.
I remember panicking, but I also remember that they didn't tell me until they knew it was going to be okay.
When to see him, he looked at the scan. He said, nothing to worry about. He said, I've investigated what you've got. Give me another scan and everything. You've got calcified cysts in your kidneys. He said, they're not cancerous, they're not nothing. And so he gave me a little bit of course of treatment, tablets, form and things like that, and it cleared up. And I went back to see him for the last time. Sometimes you just have a, not brainwave, you just have an idea. He said, okay, I'm discharging you. I said, before you discharge me, I want to, can you book me, I want to book a full body scan. He said, you don't need one, you're fine. I said, if I want one and want to pay for it, would you book it for me? He said, well, yeah, I will, if you really want one. So I pushed him to book a full body scan for me, scanned me, come out, I went to Australia, phone call, when you come back, you better come and see us. Went straight to see another one, and that was when they found a cancerous growth. They found it when it was the size of a pea.
So they were like, well, this is the plan, we're going to do this, this, this and this. So there was already a plan in place. But for me, my dad is the strongest person I know. I've never seen him slip, I've never seen him crack, not once in my life. And all of a sudden it's like, he's vulnerable, and that was hard, because in my opinion, if something would have happened to him, yeah, of course it would have been devastating, because he is the person that protects us as a family. So it was tough, but we were very lucky that they caught it early. And normally it's not something that is caught early. And we always say there was definitely someone watching over him for us to be that lucky.
He's a baby when it comes to, if he's ill, which is not often, thank God, he's ill. I mean, he dies. Man flu, nothing on him. Absolutely.
We actually have, weirdly, we have some fond memories of him, having his procedure. I remember they gave him a morphine pump. You could pump it and it'd give you morphine, obviously, where they'd operated. He was hallucinating. He kept talking to the nurse in the corner, but it was literally just me and Mum. So we do have quite, I'd say, close memories where it's just like us as a family and, the journey that we went through. And obviously it did come back, which was scary again. But again, they caught it on time and we were very lucky. But I was very young, so they kept a lot from me, I think.
Yeah, relief, obviously. I think, I suppose you don't realise, you see each other every day, well, once a month, it depends on the calendar. But I just never imagine him not ever being here, really. So when something like that happens, it makes you think, doesn't it? Goodness me, what would I do?
We was in Ireland, actually, and she found a lump in her breast.
My sister, she had breast cancer twice, actually. So I've always been tested since I was about 30. So I used to go every year, tests. And so obviously I knew the procedure. So obviously you go and you have your mammogram, whatever. And they said, oh, you need to come back. But I mean, that wasn't unusual.
you sort of know when you go and sit in, when you get called in to see the doctor or the consultant, when you go and there's nothing wrong, normally only consultants in the room, or there might be another doctor who's learning or something like that, a junior doctor or something. But because I've been through it, I sort of, when she went for her test and then we went back for the results, she walked in and he was sitting there and there was one sitting there and there was a cancer nurse sitting there. I already knew the answer.
So I went in as normal, doctor there, there's a nurse there, and George said, I knew as soon as I saw the nurse. I said, well, how? Because I always haven't, you have to have a chaperone, obviously, with that. And then she said, yep, you have triple negative. And I just said, oh, is it curable? And she said, absolutely. So, yeah, that was it, really.
Again, we weren't told, the children, me and my brother, until they knew she was going to be okay. So what he was like before they knew she was going to be okay, I can't testify to because, of course, I didn't know. I remember when I found out he was at a darts event, and I remember crying and ringing him, and I said to him, if anything happens to my mum, it's on you. You better make sure she gets the best care. You make sure, I don't care if I have to not eat, you make sure she gets what she needs because it's on you. Because he is the one that protects us.
I think the thing is, Amanda's really positive, so and so am I. And I think it probably helped me because I'd had a cancerous growth in my liver. Not helped me because I was more worried than she was. She was like, don't worry about it.
But I'm very practical. It is what it is. Just get on with it. And that's what I did.
I remember that he was sat on a plane waiting to go to a darts tournament, and my mum was at home receiving chemo. And he rang me and he said, I'm just going to get off the plane and go home. So he got off the plane, he got his luggage, he got in a taxi and he went home. And he never really left my mum's side. Took a major step back from the darts and did whatever he could to support her.
I went to the treatment with her, every treatment, a chemotherapy and a radiotherapy and things like that. It's tough, it's really tough, it's not nice, it's an horrific procedure that you have to go through. Obviously it saves your life. But when going back to me, I had an ablation where they stuck some needles in me and basically microwaved a little circle like that in my liver. So I was lucky, do you know what I mean? I was in the hospital 24 hours, they ablated that and went home. But when you got to go through months of chemotherapy, when I remember the day I had to shave her head.
My hair was falling out, obviously. And everywhere I went, you sat on the sofa, they'd be like, oh, it was awful. So I said, oh my God, George, come on, just do it. Just take it off. And yeah, he was razor out. But it was November, and he did it in the garden.
That wasn't a very nice day. It was upsetting for her and all that. And you're looking at your wife, she had really long hair and all of a sudden she got a bald head. Her eyebrows, I mean, she won't mind me saying this, her eyebrows fell out. Her fingernails and her toenails fell off. It's really intrusive, that was a tough time. But thank God that she basically took it in her, she's strong, much stronger than me. She took it in her stride and just went, I've got to do it, so I'm going to do it, and we'll get better. I'll get better.
So I'm sitting there with a bald head, like a wet shave over my head. Left me out freezing in the garden. I couldn't have got pneumonia, but no, he was there. But I didn't really need. And if it were, maybe I did, but no, I didn't really. Just, you do it.
few things really. I guess my family. I like to spend a bit more time with my family. I'm getting on a bit in my latter years of into the, I wouldn't say the last stage of my life, hopefully not, but you know, I spent more than half my life involved as a referee in darts.
He's absolutely done with the travelling. That's what, I mean, he loves doing what he's doing, but he hates the travelling.
Certain business interests, obviously the MODUS Super Series takes up a lot of my time, but there's some other businesses that I'm also involved in that are in the embryonic stage that I'd like to spend a lot more time on to develop. And it doesn't entail getting on many aeroplanes and staying in many hotel rooms.
I believe that if he didn't have the MODUS Super Series, maybe he would have been a bit bored and not known what to do. I think he thinks it's an opportunity rather than a loss.
I mean, to be fair, we have our granddaughter and my niece and nephew. We call them the grandkids because they're just like our grandchildren as well.
Of course, it's been his life for over 30 years. It's been our lives for so long. But it gives him a chance to be with his family. You know, he missed a lot of my childhood, you know, school plays, dance shows, things like that. And now he gets to be there and be available for the grandchildren. So I think he does think that's an opportunity. And maybe what he missed with me, he gets to do that with them.
Everyone that knows him on a personal level knows that he's a massive family man. His wife and kids, everything to him. So I think that's a testament to him as well. And I know that one of the big things that he is looking forward to stepping away from PDC refereeing is the fact that he's going to be able to spend Christmas at home after many years of not being able to do that.
Well, as far as I can gather, he's not retiring and never taking part again. I think he's retiring from competitive sport like myself, but I think has a massive influence on another scale. I think he'll stay in and amongst the game, and should. I mean, he's not as old as me, so why wouldn't he?
George will be magnificent in retirement. He's going to spend time with Mandy, with Matilda, with his boy as well. I believe, Baz, I believe that he's going to live a long, happy and fruitful retirement because he's got a lot going on. He hasn't got time for all this.
I think he'll be busier as a retired darts referee than he was being a darts referee. I think it's something that he's looked at doing for some time, purely for the fact that he's been round the block more than once. He's literally been there, done it, and got the polo shirt.
I think he'll relish retirement big time. You know, he'll be able to go and do all the other things and bits and pieces that perhaps doing this, where you're travelling, things he couldn't do before.
I'm not sure I want old referees looking a bit ancient with no hair. It's better for the image just to have younger people as well. But for me, really, I think I've done my time and I'd like to step out and pursue other interests and spend some more time with my family.
It's rare, very rare to find someone that's been that good for that long. I mean, I think he was refereeing darts before I was even born, and he's still doing it now, just for a little bit longer.
All of them are good. They're very good. So I think the future's, you know, in their hands. Kirk's the, like you're watching this, Kirk, you're the old man now. Yeah, and it's not a secret who's taking over from me. He actually works for us at the Super Series, Owen Binks, and I think he's a good ref anyway. Don't get me wrong, but I think he'll definitely grow into it. I think he's the right choice for the job at the moment, and you know, the opportunities Owen's to grasp with both hands, and I'm sure he will.
When I'm dealing with situations, maybe not so much now, but when I first started doing it, I was like, well, I need to bring out my inner George Noble here. What would he do in this situation? And that's how I deal with it.
I think Owen will have a long career with him. His future's bright as long as he keeps his feet on the floor and goes the right way. I think he will become the fourth ref. And you know, when you look at their average age, I said Kirk will be the old man then. But, you know, and he was obviously the youngster when it was me, Russ, Bruce, Paul Inks, and what have you. He was the youngster by miles. Now he's the old one. So, you know, your days are numbered, Kirk.
You listen to the referees now, you know, a lot of them, when I say copy George, they're in a George Noble style. And for someone to copy you and do that, you can't have a bigger compliment, because you know, if it wasn't what people liked or wasn't fussed with, they wouldn't copy it. You know, you listen to George, everyone to their own style, but everything's based on a George Noble style comp.
I think there's a new breed certainly that has sort of come through. I guess a younger sort of look, a fresh look to darts, probably matches the audience demographic switching as well. But I think, you know, I think George could have gone on for as long as he wanted to go on, to be fair. And obviously with his other interests, what he's done here at the MODUS Super Series, creating this again, just shows that sort of passion for the sport of darts, something that has been his life really for many, many years. And I think it's great that he's got something else to be involved in and focused on, and the chapter that he's in now isn't just sort of, for want of a better phrase, just being put out to pasture.
But I'm lucky that I've managed to diversify and have carved something out where I can still go on to keep inside the dance industry. But yeah, I think it's time for the younger brigade to you know, take over. I think that the players are getting a lot younger, and I think that'll just progress over time because of the way that the game's been built up.
I think his next journey's already been in motion, so it's a case of not stopping the ship, it's just moving into a different part of it.
He's still got the MODUS Super Series that he's very heavily involved with. He can now put all his concentration and everything into what is a very, very, very successful business.
He's quite ambitious. He's always, I mean, look what he's done at the MODUS Super Series. We started in Southampton in a little office, and he's still trying to grow it now, and it's doing really well. And I'm sure it's got an even bigger future. So he's an ambitious person.
You know, and we managed to, you know, outgrow that phase of a place fairly quickly. And obviously we've wound up in Portsmouth at the purpose-built venue, which is, if you don't know, is a converted church, which I think aesthetically looks very good.
I think to have an idea like the Super Series, it takes a lot of dedication and tenacity to actually get it off the ground and to believe in it, because I do know that a lot of people didn't believe in it the same way that George did, didn't see it growing the same way that George did. So I think that sort of stubborn, tenacious nature has really helped him bring about what we've got today here at the Super Series.
You know, it was all open plan. We've had false walls put in and all soundproof, and a gallery built, sound rooms, commentary boxes, presenters studios, massive stage, practice rooms. I mean, there's a lot of work that's gone into that. I mean, I lived in the Marriott for the best part of a year, maybe longer, and I'd be in there 15 hours a day. I know what I want to see, and I've got a rough idea, a decent idea of what pieces of kit we actually need to make that happen. I mean, I'll be led by, you know, the technical team, but you know, people like yourself who would understand it a lot better than me. But I would say, look, I wanted to do that. How do we do it? So I guess that's, no one has an air of expertise at all. But I think if I wanted to do that, how do we do it? And I'll make it my mission to find out how to do it, or find someone who knows how to do it. I think that's, you know, really, that's all I've done.
One word only. This will be fun for you. How would you describe George Noble?
Legend.
So far, up to the year 2026, he's the greatest to ever do it, in my opinion, and in many's opinion. So his legacy is pretty strong.
I'm coming to the end of my career now, like he is, but I'll never forget him. And I think people that are going to start their careers now wish they had him.
George, I would say take it easy in your retirement. That's not going to happen. We are going to miss the sudden death legs that you've given us so gracefully upon the stage. And one piece of advice at the MODUS Live Lounge: don't move the camera.
I think the groundwork for excellent refereeing has been laid by the likes of Bruce and Hinksey and Freddie Williams, and George has carried on that legacy of great refereeing and iconic refereeing, and the next generation have got big shoes to fill.
It was a big decision, and I've made the same decision, so I know you haven't thought about this lightly, but thanks for the 20 years we've been friends, and I'm sure I'm going to see you again, and just keep being you, mate, because your knowledge is incredible, and pass it on, and whoever you can help, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to say they've been taught by the best. Have a great retirement.
George, you've been wonderful, mate, and that's personal. Professionally, there'll be no better, pal. Love you, mate.
All right, Georgie, mate. Been a long time. We've been here, there, everywhere, all over the world and back again, all over the UK and back again, and we've been to some great places. We've been to some pretty not so great, but, mate, always been a wonderful, wonderful friendship. Adore you to pieces, you know I do. I've known you a long, long, long time. I wish you all the very much success in the future. Get a lot more time now with Amanda, Baz, all the kids. I'll tell you what, mate, I really do wish you all the very best. And don't make yourself a stranger.
Thank you.